Buying a home can be a daunting task.
That's impossible.
But there are some houses in the Sacramento region that I would never buy. Let's go through those right now. I'm Jason Walter, your resource for all things real estate related in the greater Sacramento area. First on my list are houses on a busy street. Homes that are on or very close to a busy street means you'll likely hear street traffic or car horns. Everyone has their own opinion regarding this. Some people like it, whereas other people like more quieter locations. Here's reality though, because if you live on a busy street, it's going to take longer for the house to sell. A lot of people buy a house thinking this is going to be my forever home, but at some point they're likely going to sell their house probably sooner than they think. This could be due to a job relocation or a new addition to the family, for example. Not only will it be more challenging to sell, but houses on a busy street normally sell for less than other houses in that same neighborhood. You could have an absolutely beautiful house in an amazing neighborhood, but it could be a deal breaker for those who do not want to hear traffic noise. Plus, in order to sell such a house, the buyer will likely want a discount as well. So if the home is on a busy street, don't do it. I would not buy it. Next on my list is my personal pet peeve. These are houses with an unpermitted addition, or worse yet, an unpermitted home addition that was done by a person who is not a general contractor. There are several things you should be aware of regarding these types of houses. If the current homeowner or previous owner added square footage to their house, how do you know if it was done properly or to code? If no permits were pulled, that means that no city or county inspector was there to verify that the work was done properly. Plus, will you have a huge insurance issue if you buy the house and then something goes wrong, such as a pipe bursting and the house floods? My question is, will your home insurance cover such a loss? Additionally, if the city or county records show the house is actually much smaller than it actually is, will that also create a tax issue as well? So for example, let's say you have a 3,000 square foot home, but the tax records only reflect around 2,000 square feet. This means potentially that 1,000 square feet could be unpermitted that the city or county is not even aware of. Because a property's value is directly correlated with the size of the house, will this create an issue for the tax assessor? The answer is it's uncertain, but there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain about, and that is I am not buying that house. Next up are houses that are major fixer-uppers. I know it can get exciting about buying a house that needs a lot of work and making it your own. I love this house! But there's a price for that. That's time, money, and stress. I have purchased 2 houses that needed a lot of work over the years, and based on my experience, the actual cost of remodeling end up being a lot more expensive than you think. And you find more issues later as well. In addition, it can get very expensive if you have to move out of the house for the renovation and then rent a house as well. So therefore you'd have 2 payments, your mortgage plus your rent. Been there and done that, not recommended. What also gets very expensive as well is when you have to remove load-bearing walls. This is much more costly than doing a light update, for example. It's very easy to paint, install new flooring, but it gets very expensive when you have to remove load-bearing walls, move electrical, plumbing, fix a roof, or deal with foundation issues. Before submitting an offer for a client, I call the listing agent and ask them these following questions. Are you or your seller, are you aware of any issues with the roof, foundation, or the central heat and air system? These are things that I would personally want to know prior to writing an offer on a house because these can be very expensive to repair. Also, what I really love about the Sacramento area is all the trees in the region, but it's best if these trees are far from the sewer line. So for example, for a small cost of around $200 for a sewer line inspection, you can then cover $5,000 to $10,000 more in repairs. So I'd highly recommend getting a sewer line inspection prior to purchasing a house on top of all the other inspections that would be necessary. So my advice, unless you're a pro, avoid major fixer-uppers and move on. That leads us to the infamous cheap flip. Obviously, investors want to buy outdated houses, fix them up as fast as possible in order to maximize their profits. but that could lead to subpar workmanship. Flippers often complete only cosmetic work, leaving the home buyer to complete more expensive items such as roof repairs or replacements to the central heat and air system, for example. Some investors opt to not pull permits, which is a huge red flag if permits should have been required based on the scope of the work. If that's the case, the city or county inspector was not there to look over their shoulder to make sure the work was done properly. Also, if I was the home buyer, I would want to know, was the work completed by a general contractor or unlicensed individuals who may lack experience or training? Not all flippers are the same though. Some do an amazing job, whereas others are just looking for a fast buck. So if you spot a cheap flip, move on and don't buy that house. Next up are houses that face west. This is my personal preference, but newsflash, it gets very, very hot in Sacramento in the summer months. Houses that face west, for example, get blasted by the heat, much more so compared to the backyard, where you may have a pergola that blocks the sun. Unless you have large trees at the front of the house to provide shade, you could end up running your AC much more so than your neighbor, and of course, racking up a high electricity bill in the summer months. On top of that, if you have wood siding or wood trim at the front of the house, you'll likely have to paint that much more frequently as well. Just because I personally wouldn't buy a west-facing house does not mean that you should not. So for example, my wife loves to see sunlight coming into the house. So it just comes down to your personal goals and preferences. With that said, please check out this playlist right here to learn more about living in the greater Sacramento area. Also, you can email me at jason@meetjasonwalter.com if you're looking to make a move here. Of course, we love our community and we love helping people relocate here and buy a house. With that said, thank you very much for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe and have an amazing day.